Welcome everybody. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing.
Well, TCR TJ is the Season 13 Golden Class Champion for Trinity Competitive Racing.
Oh, let's go, dude! Yes!
Jabbar on the podium! He's on it by a 10! Gentlemen, side by side through one. And Silent, and Seafreeze gets a half spin.
Let's fucking go!
Wheel bumping.
DRS enable, let's do it.
And Captain Blade battling it out for position. Captain Blade.
Ickle, what the
Then McChicken goes around and he also makes
rewind on the front straight. Oh my god.
I gotta check the heart rate.
Why do we do this? Because of nights like this.
Welcome everybody to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing, and welcome back, and welcome to the second episode of the Racing Debrief, TCR's podcast where we combine the world of e-racing, league racing, sim racing, and TCR with real-life motorsports and Formula One, a true racing enthusiast's listen. I'm your host, Seafreeze, alongside my co-host, professional, and producer, D'Angelo. Thank you all for the amazing support on the first round from last week. It seemed like it was a good support by most. I loved seeing all the previous games that everyone was posting, their first F1 games in the Discord, and I appreciate all the support with that. And we're right into it. Second episode. We're recording on July 17th. We'll get into it here. So, Professional D'Angelo, how did you think last week went? And how are we made it back here so far?
You're right, we did make it back. We're here for the second episode. I really enjoyed last week. Thought it went really, really well. And that was just a kind of a base, like a foundation to start off of. So tonight I'm really excited for the topics of the new F1 22 game and kind of our initial reactions and kind of what we think of it. It's something that I've been really wanting to talk about. So yeah, excited to get into it.
And D'Angelo, welcome.
Yeah, I mean, last week was exciting. First podcast for us in a while since the old one. But I found last week very exciting, and I'm just the producer, so I just kind of sit here. But yeah, I'm ready for the topics today, and it'll be very interesting to see what your guys' opinions are.
Well, hopefully you don't just sit there. Hopefully you do a little something behind the scenes. Well, if you are new to TCR and this episode of the Racing Debrief, I encourage you to stick around a little bit and have a listen. You could do check the description for more information, and definitely join our Discord where we're the most active as we get ready to start Season 14 on the new game. And yeah, like Professional mentioned, this episode's all about talking about the new F1 22 video game. Obviously, they rebranded it. It always used to be F1 2021, 2020, 2019. They got rid of the 20, and now it's 22. And it's with EA and Codemasters. This is, I would say, the first true release of an EA video game. I think, even though EA was all over last game on the 21 game, they didn't really have full development on that game. They kind of came in, I guess, midway, and Codemasters still had a lot of the development on for the 21 game, because you have to start working on the new game so early that probably, I would say, by the end of this year, they're already working. A lot of the new ideas need to be done now in order for them to really get moving for the new game. I would say by the end of the year, they have most of what they want in the future new games to be in, and that 6 months from January to the release of around June, July is when they start to fine tune and add some extra features, and a lot could go wrong very easily, so they need a lot of time. But this is the first true EA release, and I think so far so good is what I'm going to keep saying. Because
you kind of paused there for a second. I thought you were going to be like, it's okay, blah blah blah, but then you said, so far so good. So
I had to think about it.
It's an F1 game.
It is an F1 game, that is for sure. I think EA taking over, and a lot of people, including myself, we first opened the game and it was like, they should have put EA Sports. It's in the game, like we know from previous EA titles, from FIFA and Madden and all that.
Yeah, but
it's
that's
not in there.
No,
I don't think so. No, I've never heard that before.
I listen to it every night. What do you mean?
I'm about to turn the game on and listen to it. No, I don't think I've heard it. Even maybe I've just been completely deaf to it, but I've never heard that before on the F122 game.
No, I assure you, it's on there.
100%. I think it's there in the intro.
Logo, along with their big ass logo, that is also in the game.
God, yeah, we don't need to talk about their logo and being it stamped over everything, but that's the difference from Codemasters having full control on the F1 games to EA. It's like EA has no shame in putting their logo on literally everything. But when I first opened the game, and you can probably attest to this too, it was extremely similar to F1 2020 and F1 2021.
Yeah.
The fonts, the menu, the whole engine itself it's pretty much a copy paste. And so I think a lot of people were maybe slightly let down in that sense, because they thought EA Sports taking over, it's going to be a very completely different game, different interface and all that, and it's not. It's more of the handling and the physics that are completely different. We'll get into that a bit later. But I think because the takeover was so fast, EA Sports hasn't really had time to implement their stuff, their engine, and they put a little things in there like the supercars and the F1 Life and whatnot. But this is, I think, the fifth topic on our thing, the future of F1 games or whatever. But I think for F1 23 and beyond, we're gonna have more of that EA feel in the games, and that's just kind of what I've, some of my initial reactions so far.
Yeah, I think once I first opened it up, it definitely felt familiar. It's still your normal F1 game. I was hoping they changed a lot of the menus. I'm very OCD when it comes to like the ease of the game. I mean, it took me a few days to figure out how to get the virtual mirror up on my screen on my and I figured out you had to go in and actually customize your settings and get it. It was just so difficult. But yeah, I really don't like how it's so confusing, some of the settings. I think it's better this season, but once they changed it, I think 2020 was the first time they really changed the look of it. And yeah. But I think with what the big thing with EA was, people were like, "Oh, here comes all those microtransactions, pay to win," which you definitely
yeah, that's a good one.
That's definitely a trend. I mean, we definitely see that here. I don't necessarily, a lot of it's cosmetic, and I think it'd be very hard to, some people were saying that, you could buy a better engine in multiplayer, or, get better equipment. Like, no, that's not going to happen, I don't believe. But definitely cosmetic stuff. I mean, F1 Life stuff. I'm not a huge career mode player. I used to be before I entered into league racing. Kind of touched on that last episode, but I'm all more for multiplayer and the online experience. The F1 Life, the supercars, it was cool for the first day, but
wait, so you've actually you've driven the supercars already? Because I've driven them, I think, once just to get a screenshot for the podcast. I haven't even done a full lap in any of the supercars. I need to get on that, actually. It sounds enticing, is something
They
that's a
were
bit extra, but why not? Why not try it out?
no, they were a little fun. I mean, I got in, I think, one of the Ferrari cars around Australia. It was very weird because all my settings on my wheel are for the F1 cars, not supercars. So it was a little weird how it felt. But
Hmm.
I thought they did a decent job. But I don't. I understand the way they're going with that. I think it's a cool idea. I think there might. It's kind of like playing The Sims. It's like a very cosmetic game. We're here for more racing. I've been streaming my games a lot in the F1 in the Discord, and I was showing it to Kersey, and he says, "Man, what are you playing, The Sims?" I'm like, "Yeah." I got look at my house, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think
you
it's
open up
just
an F1 game to play supercars, like that doesn't make any sense at all.
no, it doesn't. But I think I don't know. I don't know where they're going with that, but I think the career mode of the games are pretty cool for those who are interested in that. I think there's a lot there. Supposedly, that's the only thing new is really the life aspect of it, the supercars. Um, but like going more into like the handling, I felt like it was an extreme upgrade to last probably 2 games, or even within the last recent few years. I think these cars, at first, they were like, well, they still are. To me, they're kind of difficult to drive, but like kind of rewarding. Like it's actually fun to drive them and go quick because a lot of things can really catch you out. You really felt the ride height for the first time, like I think ever for me, that the cars and the ride height you set actually determine, you know, how quick you get around. Like you really can feel the track, especially at the newer one like Abu Dhabi. You can really feel the track and the bumps, the curbing, and the setups kind of inflict that. You now have the front wings up to between 0 and 50, although early on, I don't know how accurate, how accurate those wings are, because I was told that 0 wings are kind of this early meta. But I don't know. Wait, before we even get further, did we even get an update to this game yet, or is this still the first? Did we get an update on the game?
No,
There have been a couple, not many, but a couple.
Well, it's been like mainly bug fixes, I think, but there's not been any performance updates yet. I think the big performance patch is coming hopefully within the next few weeks before we start our TCR season 14, because
Gonna
I
need
feel
it.
like David Greco, the whole physics handling designer, whatever of F1, is he mentioned that the torque will be lowered a little bit so that you can use the lower gears like second gear or third gear, which you can't really use. It's extremely torquey and the car snaps on you a lot, so you have to use fourth and fifth gear. What I'm finding. So the performance patch is still yet to arrive, but I think just minor bug fixes is kind of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, so because there was I think the previous 2 games, I feel like it was the 2020 game. A lot of us enjoyed those new cars on the initial release, and then they came up. Right? Do you remember this? They
Yeah.
updated the game and they completely changed it, and they made it worse to drive. It was not as fun as the initial release.
The initial release on 2020, and I remember you complaining about this because it was so fast. Like my heart rate was like 180 trying to drive around Silverstone because everything was so fast paced and stuff, and the cars had so much grip that you really had to, attack the corners and go through the corners faster than what you thought you had to. So it was kind of like trying to find the right word, like um, I'm lost for words, but like a jinx or like kind of a unexpected way to drive the car in 2020. And then when they did come out with the patch, it didn't ruin the game, but it definitely didn't make the handling better. I think it made it worse, and I struggled for sure on it. I liked the initial release of it. I thought I was quite quick, and after the patch, I was slower. I didn't enjoy that game as much. And 2021, kind of the same thing. They did come out with a patch, and the handling changed slightly, but it wasn't as bad or as profound as 2020. What I'm hoping for with this new game, and a lot of people have mentioned this in forums and on the Discords and YouTube channels and whatnot, that they like the handling. It's difficult, and if there's just a little minor tweak to the torque delivery on the higher gears, or sorry, the lower gears, and making the traction just a bit smoother, possibly, but it's difficult, and I appreciate that because it's more rewarding, and you can really separate what they say, the men from the boys. And I feel like if you're a smooth driver and you're able to really squeeze the throttle and trail brake correctly and not be so choppy and aggressive, you might benefit and reap the rewards of the difficulty of the handling from F122.
Yeah, I like actually the handling, and I like the difficultness of this handling model. I don't really mind the lower gears. I know it kind of suits my driving style as far as like the short shifting, using the gears to your advantage, and going back on the competition, separating the field a little bit more. I think you'll have a little bit more field spread on this game. I know it's easier to follow a car, although I think these cars are more difficult. That I think those who can really drive the cars will get those benefits. I believe in the last two games, 20 and 21, almost anyone who played the game could get up to speed and quite competitive. It was very hard to get away from other people. I think back in 2019, when you had all those ERS changes. Remember you went from zero, like none, low, medium, high, overtake.
You'll have to remind me. I hated that.
I loved it
hated
because it
that.
separated me from everybody else.
Well, that's why
on
you
that
loved it so
game.
much. I hated it because I couldn't like switch it fast enough. I didn't know. It's just too much. It was multitasking. Remember, I'm old, so I can't multitask as good as you guys can, as well as the young guys can. But yeah, there's going to be a bigger field spread for sure. More mistakes. All the social races and the unofficial races that I've done so far at 25% and 50%, there's more mistakes, and people that you wouldn't expect to make mistakes are making mistakes. And so in a 50% league race, I think trying to play it cool, trying to be smart, knowing where to push and where to use your ERS deployment, and knowing your tires. I think that's the biggest thing. Knowing your tires is going to be a big thing, and even the strategy. Like in previous games, you could always pull the undercut, and that would really, really work. I don't think the undercut is going to work on this game as well. I think the overcut has an advantage on certain tracks, and certain tracks have the higher tire temperatures and all that, and but the tracks that you can't really heat up the tires on, whenever you pit for the hard tires, somebody that stays out a lap or two longer might be able to pull the overcut. So I think strategies are going to be up in the air, what tires to use, the whole track limits and safety car thing. I mean, that's a whole other topic. It's just a little buggy at the moment, but yeah, I'm excited for league racing because it's something completely different than what we've experienced really since 2019. So I'm excited for myself because I feel like I'm getting a really good handle on this game, as I'm sure you are as well. So.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, I really am. I think for those who are really good at the game, will they'll get through all these things, and for those competitive leagues, there probably won't be much of a skill gap. But I'm just talking for more of the casual player towards the a little bit more involved league racer to more of an esports sweat, as they call them. I think once you get into the category with everyone else, that this field spread kind of goes away. But I think you'll see a little bit more, issues at least early on, until you get a little bit more time and laps under your belt. Now, last game, I didn't actually. It was the first F1 game since 2015 that I didn't actually get on release day. For a few different reasons, I didn't opt to get it until I needed to do commentary, and I really didn't start playing the game until November. like consistently. And I didn't really. Then when did last season, season 13, when I was racing, and I was pretty much behind 6 months, and I took a lot off from 2020 at the end of that game. So it was hard to get back into league racing and learn because I was pretty much 6 months of time below a lot of other league racers. I think if you do that on this game, you're screwed. I think you really need to keep level with the time. And for those who are getting the game now and still playing it, you look maybe next year, January, for, I mean, they're going to be so much quicker than, and you'll just naturally learn all about the setups, the tracks, the cars, what curbs to take, how to set your car up and all that. It's going to be a big skill gap for anyone who takes a break. I know people who didn't even get the game yet, and they're down X amount of hours already, right? It's all about time. The more time you put in, the more benefits you will receive. And if you're that far down already, it's going to be hard. But I like that. I like that aspect. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I was kind of disappointed from this game a little bit as far as, I guess, the online. Like I like the handling. I like the cars. I think they did a good job on the tracks. The setups are still, I like that we have a little bit more variety in the wings. I don't know how much that. To me, I feel like it's just a ratio, right? If you take, wings 1 through 11 like last season or last game, and you just conduct that in a ratio and make that 1 to 11, now 1 to 50. It's kind of like the same thing. I feel like it. I don't know. I haven't really played much around with the setups, but
Well, see, like for when you said that, I actually respectfully disagree with the whole ratio thing because of the fact that they've gone from, the wings and the downforce being produced from over the car, like pushing the car down into the track. For now, where now it's ground effect, so it's pulling the car from the underbody to the track. So it's like under, like a under the body downforce, the ground effect. So I feel like the wings are working differently than if it's just a ratio from 1 to 11, now 1 to 50. And the front wings have less an effect than the rear wing, from what I've read and what I've experienced in the setup testing that I've done so far. But I guess that'll be, I want to talk more about that, but that's getting to the second topic, which is pros and cons. I do have a question for you, though, Seafreeze. From your previous games and your preference, you've always preferred understeer, correct?
generally, yeah, I like an understeery car.
Do you feel like this game is more oversteery like 2020 and 2021, or is it more understeery like 2019?
I feel like it's a trick question because quite initially they're very understeery. Like the basic default setups, all 5 of them, seemed very understeery. But I think once you start making your setups and tweaks, you kind of want to make it more of an oversteery car, but it still has characteristics of an understeery car. So just because you change the setup, you kind of get a different feel for it. Because I was trying some different, I guess, more time trial-esque setups. I haven't really gotten into setup making because there's really no reason to yet. But yeah, it's kind of a trick question, I think.
What about D'Angelo? Have you kind of messed around with that, or your initial thoughts on that?
I kind of find them not oversteery. I find them understeery, and then when I make my setups, some of the different track setups can be oversteery. It all depends really on what track it is for me. Plus, I'm on pad too, so that doesn't help. But initially it's more understeery, but with some of the setups I've made for certain tracks, it's definitely a little oversteery. It's in that gray area, I find.
Yeah, it seems to be like it's more track dependent and stuff, like kind of running reverse ride height, reverse suspension, anti-roll bars, or then doing kind of like the 2021 setups where you have like the lower front suspension, lower front roll bar, and all that. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Yeah, I think they're super understeery, but then you have that like snap oversteer. If you kind of like hit the throttle too much, and it's once you get in that snap, you can't really save it. It's really really hard, but that's the difficulty of the game. I really like that. So yeah.
I think you have both. Now that I know where you're going with it, because I think initially, they're very understeery cars, but they're understeery at low speed, medium to low speed. They're
And also on
very
entry too.
yes, and then on exit and more mid to high speed, the rear doesn't really like a lot of weight being put there, and I feel like that was a weird thing that just clawed me out a bunch and still is when is the rear locked down and when is it getting lifted and turned around? We saw actually last weekend, the Austrian Grand Prix, Hamilton crash out, was it in qualifying?
Qualifying, yeah.
I don't know what turn that is. Where you could be 4,
7, I
5,
think.
6 to 7.
Yeah.
He went in there, that double left. The rear did not stick at all, and he had a counter steer. Once you counter steer, I mean if you have a setup and you're really pushing the limit, if you do exactly what pushing the limit in that corner, if you oversteer and correct and catch the car, catch into that slide, you can literally do in the exact crash Hamilton had right into the wall. That's like an exact copy paste wreck that I've had.
Yeah, I've had the very similar thing happen at, trying to remember the corner name at Silverstone, but the big right-hander at the end of the Hangar Straight. I think is it Abbey? I think, but like you go in there and you downshift pretty quickly to 5th gear and put on the throttle again, and you get that snap oversteer and you try to save it, and you're pretty much in the gravel. But that's going to be a thing that I've seen a lot of people mess up with. Like they just get that rear end not stable at all, and it's like I've been really trying to mess with setup and stuff. I know you said you haven't really done that yet. I'm curious to see whenever you start messing with setup to see if you find something or what you do to try to counteract that, because I've been trying a lot of different things and it just seems to be a characteristic of this game that the rear end is just going to be unstable, and it's putting more responsibility on the driver and the throttle and the steering inputs to not let that happen. And especially on a bumpy track like Abu Dhabi, turn 9, I think it is, that newly reprofiled left-hand turn in substitution of the really kind of a cookie cutter Mickey Mouse chicane thing that I hate. And so that corner there, it's really bumpy, and you get this really nasty bump at towards the exit of it when you're kind of accelerating into 5th gear, and you can't go full throttle, even though you have minimal steering lock. Your rear end just snaps because the rear end is so unstable and unsettled due to that bump, and I guess the ground effect downforce is, I guess it's interrupted, and so whenever you get interruption and the ground effect pulling the car down, like pulling the rear end down, really doesn't like that at all. And there's got to be a trick and setup that people just haven't found yet, or it's just got to be a driver initiated thing. But that could play a huge part in league racing and just playing the game. I find it fun, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that word interruption. I think that almost directly correlates to what I feel is that interruption. I think that corner at Abu Dhabi is a good example. The one at Austria is another good example. The one I've been very had very much difficulty in is actually Miami. Turn is very early on. I think it's like turn 3. Once you get out of that little chicane, and it's pretty much you can get on the throttle. It's the long right-hander, and right there, for some reason, if the rear just spins and you get just loss of the rear, and it's just like that interruption. Weird. I know probably setup can definitely fix those things, but it's like understeery, but also oversteer. It's such a weird, and then the curbs and the bumps on certain tracks you could really feel. I'm happy they actually fixed the curbs at a lot of tracks from last game, Belgium and Japan most notably. You can definitely push on those curbs. I am still quite cautious because of the amount of spins I've had at those tracks, and I'm trying to wipe that out of my memory. The 2021 curbs at Belgium and Japan,
God, those are lethal,
they killed a lot of people.
myself included.
Yeah. Oh, that was very, very hard. I don't know. They were just auto spin curbs for sure. But I'm happy they fixed that. I'm very much looking forward to it. Now, I've obviously just started this game on PC, and you're on PlayStation, so I'm actually going to have the opportunity to see how this game translates from platform to platform. If I can get hands on a PlayStation 5, we'll test that out next season. Because obviously cross-platform is coming to this game, which I think is another big plus of this game. I guess we didn't really list pros and cons. We kind of just went into it like this, but I think it's such a good thing that's happened. Man, the cross-platform idea of actually on paper into this game, it's gonna be so good for F1 community, league racing, multiplayer, TCR, and many other leagues. Because now we really do have, we could fill up grids. When I get on multiplayer on PC, there's lobbies. We're still early on in the game, but eventually we're gonna get to a point where people aren't as interested, and those people in those lobbies will be less. But with cross-platform, you'll almost always have a lobby to find throughout the entirety of the game cycle. Now, seeing this cross-platform in play and actually working is another story. I mean, we've always, you always have glitches and stuff online, and I feel like that's always maybe one of the cons. I really don't trust the integrity of the online servers. I feel like they're always buggy. There's always one glitch. Last game there was quite a few. They kind of hampered out with some updates. There was one when if you joined in the middle of qualifying, it would mess up the timing of the
Well,
lobby.
You would have the full qualifying time. I think I joined one of our league races late at Zandvoort, and I think I joined in with you guys having like 9 or 10 minutes left. And I had the full 18,
Right.
so I had to you had to tell me when to stop. Otherwise, I would have had more opportunity to get farther up the grid, and I could have easily cheated. But obviously, that's not in the integrity of that's not what we do. So that was a weird.
Let's just wait here for professional. He's just finishing up. Just give him another 18.
Another 10 minutes. Yeah, professional goes P1. That's amazing. Yeah, no, we don't want to do that.
Imagine you had all that track evolution too, damn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and then they fix some things, and but I feel like there's always they do all these updates, the first 6 months, and then I feel like the second half of the game, there's really nothing. It's like a lot of career mode and glitches that, I just, man, if they're implementing this cross-platform in October, November, December, whenever it comes out, they do a few updates. What's the chance of it actually working in league racing?
Not really sure. That's a good question. I mean, we're not going to really find out how it works until it happens. And I think we're lucky to have our established 3 tiers on PlayStation stuff. So if we try cross-platform and it's just not working, we already have ourselves set up, and I think a lot of leagues will just revert back to what they've been doing until EA Sports can really push out a well-working, polished, fair cross-platform that people can trust and people can use in league racing. So I'm sure there'll be bugs and all that, but it's definitely a pro that they're going in this direction, given that EA Sports titles like Madden and FIFA have already been cross-platform for a number of years. I think this is just the next logical step. So it's definitely a pro, but definitely one of the cons would be the differences between the platforms, and we've seen that in the past with F1 games from Codemasters. So if it's on the same engine, which they are using the exact same engine, same menu format, same images, same graphics, I have my doubts. I think it's really when they get into F1 23 and beyond, when EA Sports has full control and they're changing the menus, and they've already been working on their new engine, or at least David Greco, the head of the physics and handling model, he's already mentioned and confirmed that yes, there will be a new engine for F1 23, which they've already started working on last year. I think that's really when this can take off. So we just got to be patient and not rush things. I know they want to do the best job they can, and so we got to give them the opportunity to do that best job that they can.
Yeah, and I think since this is still early on with EA, I think they have a lot in store. I think they can really make the games better in the future. But I think that that's a big positive is that cross platform. I think that's the one thing I was the most excited for is that, and I think that's the best positive right now is that I think the DLC tracks are great that we're eventually going to be getting. I know a lot of them were probably previous ones. I think they listed a few. They're probably some of. I think they kind of released it, but I don't think it was like a hard release. It was like a kind of a leak. But I think they had 6 tracks. Some were like those short tracks, Bahrain short. I think one of them was maybe I don't know if it was Britain short.
Pan short.
Yeah, one of those. And I think I don't know if it was China, Portimao. I think there was Hockenheim, which would be oh my gosh. Can we get that track back on the calendar, please? As soon as possible. Email sent. Let's get that back on. I mean, the fact that Formula One hasn't been to Germany. It's like race. There's how many German drivers, and that support of that country. They have no track on the schedule. It blows my mind. It
Yeah,
really
and
it
then
needs to be
like
there.
no German Grand Prix, but yet we're going to places like Saudi Arabia and I mean, it's a great track, Jeddah, but just the fact that we go to Saudi Arabia and not go to Germany just blows my mind as well. It doesn't make sense. But
Yeah, it definitely needs
money
to be
is
there.
cash is king, right?
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
absolutely. But I think that's a good thing is to hopefully get some more DLC tracks because all these tracks are based off the actual regular calendar of what F1 puts in. So obviously, if a track goes off the schedule, it's off the game. I think the 2 biggest tracks that were, at least in my lifespan of the F1 games, the 2 tracks that came off that really a lot of people were kind of sad about was obviously Germany, Hockenheim, and the other one I remember back was Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, nothing really happened much. I know Portimao, China, because this is since COVID, a bunch of different tracks have came on. We've had the opportunity to go to Turkey again. That one would be lovely. A lot of different tracks in Italy. We had Mugello. You had we're back at Imola, which that doesn't happen without the pandemic. Probably they would probably be the same list of tracks, and but the fact that we're getting DLC tracks is good because it's more content to the game. The cross-platform, you're getting more content because you're able to race more often in better quality lobbies with whoever you want on whatever platform. The handling model, I think, also being very tough but rewarding, and seems to be going in a nice direction of actual, I guess, a little bit more realism because I think back on 2020 game, it seemed they were going very arcade. They wanted you have that guy, Lee Mather. Mather? Mayweather? Not Mayweather.
Not Mayweather. Lee Mather. You're right.
Difference in check, let me tell you. um, but he always said, "Oh, if you come home from work and you just want to do a casual game, you can get on the game." And it seemed like it was going very arcade style, because this is not a simulator; it's a simcade. You're gonna have some. It's not an arcade either, and it's not a simulator like an iRacing, and it's not like a. Um,
Need for Speed.
yeah. Oh, perfect example. Yeah, I was. Yeah, Need
That's
for
a very
Speed
arcade.
or like The Crew.
The Crew or the Grid, Grid or Dirt and stuff, because those are Codemasters games actually, right? So like
Yeah,
Grid and
is.
Dirt.
Grid is, yeah.
Yeah, super arcadey. Oh my god! And then they, I think it was Codemasters that took over Project Cars 3 and completely ruined what Project Cars had been before. Like that was really sad. Point in being, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. This is conversation. But yeah. So that's I thought it was going very much arcade style, but now it seems if you go into the games now, there's options for if you're a casual player, more experience, like intermediate, I think they call it, and then an expert or something. I don't know what they call it, but based on the setting play style you want, that'll determine kind of like all the other features within the game. A lot of them are more for single player, because you can't have that. Like when you go over the grass, if you have casual versus more expert, the effect won't take in as much as an example. Um, so that is you can't have that online. I don't think. Hopefully you can. That'd be like cheating. But I think that's more for career mode. But now it seems like they can separate the style of play a little bit besides on multiplayer. So the fact they redid this model, it seems nice. In the future, I hope they add more and more and more. And this way, you can still have the simulation style for those hardcore league racers and racing fans, enthusiasts. But if you are just a casual person, want to hop on for some races or some, you know, simple, easy, it's not easy, but you put on that more casual setting and it simplifies it a lot down so you can learn and just have fun a little bit. And I think because they're doing that, they're able to go in both directions, which I think satisfies both parties, a more casual player and the more advanced league racer. And I think that is also another positive. So I think those are my big three: is the handling model, I think the DLCs and the cross-platform. Apart from that, I don't know what else big they've really done. I feel like besides F1 Life, which was good on the first day, but I'm not a career guy. I'm not a career mode person, so it doesn't really affect me. D'Angelo, you played career mode, didn't you?
Yes, I have done a lot of career mode.
What do you do? There's a few options, right? You could do career mode. You could do. Do you have the what's it? My team.
Yeah, you got the
Is
My
there-
Team
what-
and the driver career.
And how have you liked that?
I mean, it's kind of like the same as last year, but there's more aspects to it this year with the like every race weekend you can do a like supercar event, and it gives you more like acclaim to get your sponsors or whatever. It's basically a rehash of last year's career mode, but I'd find career mode pretty fun. So
It's a great way to enter in before league racing if you just are more want to kind of do that single player route. Career mode is so much better today than it was back on 2015 when there was just Grand Prix as your career mode. You just kind of continued the championship in a Grand Prix. There was no development and things like that. So, um, and what would be the cons? Any cons that you can think of that would be, or do we really not get enough on the game? Maybe a lack of extra content? I don't know. I don't really know what a con would be. Yeah.
honestly, not. I really one thing doesn't stand out to me at the really. I feel like it's a little early Maybe. Yeah, one thing really doesn't stand out to me right now.
I can't say I have a big complaint. I mean, I'm just kind of upset they didn't do a little bit more on multiplayer side of things. I think the whole visual. I have a very clear solution, but I don't know. I'm like I'm a very. I have a couple nitpicky things about just the ease of access of the game, but that really is not gameplay. Just like the settings and multiplayer and options and stuff like that, making it a lot easier on people trying to find what they need, and giving a little bit more on the multiplayer side of things. But we'll get into that a little bit later as far as what we would like to see on the games. Obviously, we're more multiplayer league racing heavy than we are career mode, so I'm not going to suggest, oh, I think it'd be great if we can, get the R&D before this race, and I have no idea. I don't play that sort of stuff. But yeah. So what did I'll ask you this: what was the first thing that you went to on the new game? Whoever wants to, D'Angelo Professional.
I think the first thing I went to was a time trial, just to get a feel more than anything.
Time trial. Do you remember the car track? What track did you go to?
I think I picked McLaren and I went to Miami.
Of course.
Just like everybody else, Miami, Miami. I want to do Miami. All they do is Miami. Interesting.
How about
yeah.
you?
What are the first thing I did on the F1 game? Went to the settings. That's what I did.
Yep. Oh,
Went to
Oh yeah,
settings.
that too.
Yeah, I did just did some personalization on settings, like what I knew I wanted, like because I drive in cockpit cam, like you do, C-Freeze, and so just trying to get the settings right and the force feedback, and just doing like one lap or two laps. But the first car and track that I picked was actually Australia in the Ferrari.
Yep.
And I just did, like, I'm not even trying to be competitive, whatever, just trying to do a lap, trying to see how the force feedback feels, keeping everything as default, how does the wheel like shake and jiggle down the straights? If so, you need to lower the force feedback or lower the on-track effects, stuff like that. I did a few time trial things that night because it was like 1 a.m. when the game released my time, which is stupid, but it is what it is. So just did a few time trial tracks in the Ferrari. I think I tested the Mercedes and the Alpine as well, because that has the Renault engine. So just for the sounds. And yeah, just trying to get in the initial impression, which we've obviously went over. So that's really the first thing that I did, and then from there, kind of ventured off into what I would normally do to prepare, or just to get used to the game and get used to the physics, and that all is in preparation for league racing.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. Time trial, Ferrari. I don't know what track though. I am kind of. I don't think it was Miami, because I think I would have went to a track that I think it was Bahrain actually, just because it was the first on the list. And I did Bahrain and Ferrari. I actually got stuck in the gravel trap eventually, like stuck. You couldn't move, which I thought was interesting that you could actually get beached. Like I must have been in Science's car.
Yeah.
I was totally beached. I had to reset and start all over. But I think that's a cool feature. If that, hopefully, it'd be cool to get stuck in a, gravel trap here and there. Not
To
league
be honest,
racing.
I've gotten stuck on curbs. Like actually, I got stuck on curbs twice just today, and I think it's people spin on track or whatever. They're gonna get stuck on a curb or beach and stuff, and if you're racing with us, season 14, good luck trying to use reset to track, because that feature is disabled.
Yes. Oh, that's pro.
Goodness.
Pro.
Oh yeah, that is a pro.
list.
That's under the pro list.
Man. Oh, that's gonna solve so many problems for us in a lot of leagues,
Yes.
because we don't allow the reset to track. It's in our rules. You can't use it, and if you see someone that use it, you can report them.
You can use it. You're going to get a pretty hefty penalty, and good luck trying to.
Absolutely.
You're going to be disqualified. So
On this game, no, there's a feature you can turn that off. So you can't even have the option to reset to track. It's off. And what's the other one? The recovery mode or something, like it automatically puts you. That's
Or
off
the
too.
auto reset to track, or is
Yeah,
it the
so
yeah?
it's like that. It's all in that one feature, which I think is, I wanted it on last game, but I'm happy they got it on this one. And because we like that more realistic style play, resetting the track. As soon as you go, I feel like it's so, before you spin and you see, oh, I'm gonna hit the wall, I'm gonna reset the track. It's such a weird feature. It's like not shouldn't be in for league racing style play for sure. Um, but I think if you do get beach for a certain amount of time, the game should replace you. I think that would be okay. But I think there'd be like a time limit or something involved for that. But yeah, the that's a great feature. Oh, what was I saying? What were we on before that? We got what were we on before the?
Oh, it's like what we do on the new game is like, you did Bahrain time trial, I did Australia time trial with a few other tracks. I think I did do Miami that night just because I wanted to drive a new track. I mean, who wouldn't? Um, but and then after the first night, so like the past few weeks, right? The first night we all do time trial, we all kind of get used to the game, and then the following 3 to 4 weeks after that, I think is the most crucial point, and that kind of determines and defines how you're going to be on the new game, like how fast or how slow, God forbid, you're going to be, and how much you're going to struggle or how much you understand it and stuff. And I think from what I've heard you talk about, Seafreeze, to myself, and kind of our different approaches, very different approaches of what we're
Yes.
doing. That's really interesting. And if you're listening to the podcast and if you're watching this back, I would be curious to see what do you do? Like in the 3 weeks after the initial game release, what have you been doing? Have you been doing 5-lappers? Have you been doing time trial? Have you been exploring setups? Have you not been exploring setups? And what do you kind of gravitate towards in preparation for league racing if you do that, or if you don't do that, like career mode? I'm just curious, what do you guys do? So yeah, drop a comment below and be curious on that. What do you do, Seafreeze? In these past 3 to 4 weeks, what have you been doing?
Yeah, man, a lot, a lot. Well, I was energized in coming into this because, like I mentioned, last game I didn't get it on the first day. This game I did. I got the early access 3 days early. I didn't. It was like 2.5 by the time I really got into it. But the first thing I really do is, like you mentioned, get the settings right. I think that's I can't stress that enough. You want your own rig in real life to be all correct, and then you also want your settings in game to also be correct. And what I mean by that is I also do cockpit, so I'm on the wheel. I want to make sure the settings on the wheel are good. I'm getting a nice feel from it. I want to make sure in real life that my rig is comfortable. I want to make sure my camera settings are right. I want to make sure I'm in miles per hour versus kilometers per hour, or whatever you prefer. I want to make sure I have my rear view mirror on. Because I like that feature in cockpit. I don't have to look back, and I like that feature. So the track map, making sure it's on full versus the mini. So like all these little things, I'm making sure I'm comfortable with. Then I'm also making sure my buttons, what, right? So I want to make sure I'm comfortable and my instincts. I don't have to think about the button. I just do it, and it's DRS, mainly your DRS, your overtake, maybe your pit limiter, but that's really not much needed. Some other little menus here and there, but whatever feels natural to you, want to make sure is on your wheel correctly. For the most part, I left everything generic. I wanted, and that's something F1 Lee Mather and some other interview people from developers saying there's those settings for a reason, so you should try to use them. And I did. I didn't change anything as far as wheel settings, uh, force feedback. My wheel was the same as last game, I could always get into those settings when we maybe do an episode on rig stuff. Um, but in camera settings, one thing I really took down, I kept almost everything default, but the big thing I had to turn down because my eyes started hurting was the camera shake.
Oh,
I had to turn that down a little bit. I don't mind if it's on. I just need to turn it down a little bit because it was just too much shaking on the screen for going that fast. So I did turn that down a little bit, and just kind of setting myself up to see, how am I going to be comfortable in league racing? How am I going to be comfortable in racing? And I think it's a great point to transition, well, not transition, but also relay that to real life motorsports. Is, you see drivers doing, different one-off races or switching categories. Fernando Alonso trying the Indy 500. Jimmy Johnson went from NASCAR to IndyCar. A lot of those drivers also doing some endurance racing, 24-hour Le Mans, Daytona. They're not in the car every single week. They're used to one style, one thing, and it could literally be, or even NASCAR too. The new cars, everything a lot changed electronically in the car. Button switches removed and added and changed. Formula One also new car. A lot is there to learn, and if you don't know what you're pressing, and if it's not second nature to you, you got to think before you do, and you're losing time. And you can look up interviews of these other drivers changing categories, but a lot of like first day testing, it's not about going quick. It's all right. Let me make sure I'm comfortable. Even the seat fits.
Yeah.
Making sure you're comfortable in the car and
like your
getting
legs are not hitting and all that stuff, right?
yeah, I remember George Russell went and subbed for Lewis Hamilton at Bahrain, but it was the other layout. The
Yes, it was the
so
secure, the
yeah,
the outer circuit, right?
yeah, the outer layout or
Mhm.
outer layout, something like that.
Outer layer.
um, but he barely didn't even fit in the car. Man, his head was really sticking out. But he was able to get around. But that's a big important thing. I was doing, and hopefully he's listening, and hopefully I'm not pointing you out as a bad way. But I was doing some five lappers with Turkey and the other day, Turkey Whacker, and he was showing me his rig. He had a couple questions about setting up because he actually listened to the first one and he was like, "Oh, send me a picture of your wheel pedals base that you made," because I mentioned that in the last episode. He actually saw that, listened to that, and asked me for a picture of it so he can kind of build something similar. He did. He sent me back and it was great. But I'm like, I hope that's not the chair you're using for league racing. He's like, why? Why not? I'm like, dude, you're on tile with with a rolling chair.
So every time he pushes the brake or the throttle, he's moving back and stuff.
You're going back to the fridge. You know what I mean?
Oh dear, yeah. Going back to the fridge for a drink. There you go.
Yeah, and that's not to single him out, but it's kind of a wake up call for those who do have a similar style of that. Is hey, that could be a big reason why you're losing out. It's not because of your skill. It's just that is limiting you because you don't have full control of the brake pedal or
Yeah.
even the throttle. And sometimes mid corner, now you're rolling and scooting up, opposed from getting on the throttle, getting on the brakes. So the setup has so much to do with it. Making sure the when you turn your wheel 90 degrees left, it relays 90 degrees in game. It doesn't, I know people that will do 90 degrees to the left and it'll turn like
Like
three
an inch.
times or that, or the other way. Maybe you'll
They're having
only
to do like
turn
a
an
full
inch.
360 and like do it like, trying to do like a 3-point turn thing and just keep turning the wheel to try to like make one turn. It's like,
Yeah.
my goodness, dude.
And
like,
then your elbows are all the way up to the ceiling. And it's like, dude, these cars are Formula One cars. They're not. You're not supposed to be moving more than 90 degrees at
yeah,
most times. Like you need little movements, slight movements. So that's another thing that is when a lot of people switch from controller to wheel. That's another problem. Is that, and we could get into that on another topic. But I think that's the biggest thing when you go to a new game is to make sure you're comfortable and settings are going to be right. You could always but change things down the line, but you really want to spend that first week, for me, getting comfortable, not trying a bunch of things, just making sure I'm comfortable. And then if I do need to change something, I do. But I've had incidents in the past where I changed a lot and got away from what was default, from what the game gives you initially, that I was so far off with camera settings and wheel settings that I'm like, well, I think now what I just did is now hindering me. And I had that on the 2020 game in the first 6 months is I changed too much in my wheel, to change too much in my settings. My camera settings were all messed up and I didn't know what was natural. And I had to revert back to default, and it actually helped me figure out, oh, this setting shouldn't have been. This should have been on. This should have been off. Those things are definitely key for those who are getting on the new game. And if you did change a lot, maybe just think of what you're changing, because 6 months down the line, you might be like, oh, why am I this slow? It could be a setting. That's the one thing I really do look at. But so that's the first thing I do is settings. I can't stress that enough. But as far as racing in game, once all that is set up, I believe a true believer in five lappers. I think five lappers are such a good thing to learn is because you have 5 laps on a track, sometimes one shot quali. Get in a group of guys, that are good with racing. You're not bumping each other off and everything like that. You're there for actual racing. That's the time to try your Daniel Ricciardo moves. A few years old now, but 2018 and everything. Do your late braking, do your dive bombs, do the differences, just throw the car around and see if it sticks or not. You do your fair share of spinning. Try a little bit with the setups, but the 5 lappers are such a great way to throw the car out there initially. I think another good thing to combo with that is time trial. I think early in the game, you need to know what's the limit of these cars. I'm trying to find that. I'm trying to set times in time trial. It doesn't need to be crazy world record times because you could sit there and do that one lap that is going to be the money lap, and you could have done 1,000 laps to get to that one lap. So the time really doesn't matter so much. But just trying to find that limit in time trial and then translating those setups. I usually load and save a bunch of setups from time trial and get a slot in my setup range. Now this game I did it differently. I actually saved 5 setups from each track. I did about 5 laps or less. No more, really, no more. And I saved 5 setups, at least 2 different setups. The other 3 are just placeholders. This way, they're all in order. And this way, when we go there for the league race, I can just go to Bahrain, have 5 in a row. I'm trying it this year. In the past, I would save 1 setup, and then when we get to a league race, I'd scroll all the way down. And then setups, it would just get very disorganized by the end of the game cycle. And I take those one shot. I just load a setup and save it from whoever's on the time trial, either a friend that I know they're on wheel, no assists, or some random person, but I make sure they're on no assists because I'm on no assists. I save it, I put it in the slot. I don't even look at it really. I try to get a few different, put it in the slot. I use that in time trial. I use it in the 5 lapper. And I don't even look at it because I want to just get in there and feel the car. I want to have my instincts kind of guide me, see what the car is. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh man, this thing is terrible in this section. I look at the setup. Oh, that's why. Let me change that. Why was I using this? But I figured something out that way. So time trial 5-lappers are definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Recently, once I got all the setups in the slot, which took a day or two, doing 5 laps at every track and doing 5-lappers with a good group of lobby. Then I'll just do single time trial at a certain track. I'll go about anywhere from 10 to 30 laps or more at one track and really dial it in. I'll try a few different setups, but it's really just about logging laps, feeling the limit. I try not to reset the track too often. I try to finish the lap even if I do spin. It's not about setting a world record time, but it's just about logging laps and finding the limit, trying the cars out, maybe trying a few setups out. But I won't go into league racing, practice mode sessions, setups, and all that until a certain point. But I feel like if I can't find the limit, there's no way I can start changing setups and dial that in. I need to figure out the car and the limit of the car in 5-lappers and time trial before I start sitting down and saying, all right, what do I got to do? So that's my approach. I know you've started looking at setups and you haven't really been doing much time trial. I know you've been doing more 25. I haven't done a 50% race. I haven't done a 100% race yet.
It's different.
I did one 25% race and it was online. I have not touched career mode. I've done time trial and 5-lappers, and that's what got me quick in 16. And I'm hoping the same will carry me. So that's my approach.
Interesting. Yeah, that's wildly different than what I do. So, and it's cool to see different perspectives and see what different drivers approach the game and approach their first 2-3 weeks. So, I think doing for me, I think I do quite a bit of 5-lappers, and it's a chance to race against other people, and there's a lot of things that happen, like you have to really use your instincts and how quick can your reactions be and stuff, and trying different things like late braking and trying different moves and all, like you mentioned. I'm more of the I do a little bit of time trial to learn where you can brake. How late can I brake? Because I like to brake really late. And can you use this curb? Can I brake on that curb? Okay, maybe I shouldn't touch that part of the curb because it'll auto spin you. So I do the time trial just to learn the track, not so much the car. Whereas you do time trial to learn the car's limits and all that. So I just do TT or like time trial to learn the track. After I do that, do some 5-lappers with some good buddies and good friends and stuff, and just how fast can I be against other people, instinct driving and all that. But I like to then go into like very, very quickly, like within the first 2 weeks, go into a online lobby by myself and do a 60-minute practice, because the online lobbies and the online
so
play. Well, right, that's all boring. Yes, it is, but there's.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the person, because it's not. I don't find it boring. I find it actually quite exciting. Because I do so many.
Someone, it could be a lot of fun. Yep.
I mean, if I do a lot of 5-lappers, because I do quite a bit, and so I balance it out with doing kind of single player stuff, and I don't do ever career mode stuff. So I'm in an online lobby by myself, or with another driver or two, because we just want to practice together. Like I was in a Silverstone lobby last night at midnight with TJ and with Silent, and we're testing setups, testing different cars and whatnot, and the cars and the handling feels so different in online, especially a 50% practice in a race, than the 5-lappers. So for me, and I feel like I adapt pretty quickly to a new game and to new cars and different situations and stuff. And I think that's one of my pros about me. But learning how the cars feel on heavy fuel, tires, there's just so much less grip. The cars feel much more sluggish and heavy. And I like to do that because that's what we're going to be doing for the league racing stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, if I can put as much time and practice kind of simulating what we're going to be doing for league stuff, I'm all for that. That's what I want to do because that just dials me in a lot faster and a lot better. Once I kind of feel and learn how the car is on heavy fuel and in an online lobby, I'll start messing with setups quite quickly. So within the first week, I was already messing with setups because I adapted very quickly to the physics of the car. I knew what the cars liked. I knew what the cars didn't. I was still spinning out quite a bit and this and that, but I knew what I had to do in order to not do that, and then it just takes time and practice. So put myself in an online lobby with other people, 50% race, and I feel like I'm already ahead of the curve, ahead of most people in that sense. And it, to me, F1 and league racing is a lot of a mental game. And I've been inside my head too much the past few games because I feel like I've lost speed. I'm a bit older. I've lost that instinctiveness of being able to really feel the car and be on the edge and be on the limit for a long period of time. And so anything I can do to put myself back in the game and back in that advantage, which I used to have, I'm all for. So that's why I like to put myself in those online lobbies, 50%, 25%, doing more of those endurance things because I do feel like I thrive on endurance racing. It's a mental game. That's all it is, And once you're mentally there, you can try to really fine tune the edge of the car and the limit of the car, the grip and stuff, and that's something that I really work towards. And so, then messing with the setups and trying different things, being on the same tire and trying, wings that are farther apart, trying wings that are, closer together. Like, for example, I was trying a 12-24 wing setup, whatever, at Silverstone last night. Ended up with like a 13-15 or like an 11-14 or something much closer together. But then balancing that with suspension and with ride height and doing some research, watching YouTube videos and seeing what people are doing. Because it's all a balance. It's like if you change one part of the setup, you have to balance it out with another part of the setup. You can't be too aggressive on multiple parts because then you're going to have a very unstable car and you're not going to be able to handle it, in a long 50% race because you're going to be you're going to have a lack of confidence, and confidence in this game goes a long way, especially with that instability and the what was the word that we used earlier? The where the rear end just kind of steps out, the interruption of the downforce in the rear end, and you have to have enough confidence to kind of push through that instability so that you don't let off or leave time on the table. So it's a different approach, I think. I'm definitely taking this approach, which I haven't done before.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When you never took that approach before, what were you just about to say?
Yeah, this is really the first game in years that I've been this dedicated to sticking with this approach. I tried it back on 2019 or 2020, 2021, but I got either distracted by doing other stuff, or I got bored of it, or I was frustrated, and I didn't. I guess my approach, my mindset wasn't I wasn't as dedicated to pursuing that. Like for example, take real F1 this season, and Mercedes has struggled right from race one with porpoising and with their balancing, and they just have not been able to figure it out with their zero pod design. Haas had apparently trialed it or was trying to develop that in the wind tunnel right last year.
Yeah, because they had more time in it because they were
exactly, but they ditched it because they didn't feel like it was going to be worth it. So that's an example of I was more of Haas in the past games to where I thought I could do something and I thought I could pursue that avenue, but I quickly got distracted or I just wasn't able to commit to that. Whereas this year I'm more of Mercedes, and I know I'm struggling maybe more at first, whatever, but I'm dedicated to sticking with this direction, and I know it's going to pay off in the future because I can already feel myself benefiting from my commitment to this process, if that makes sense. And so that's why I'm excited about this game, because I finally feel like I've been able to slightly unlock something I haven't been able to unlock the past few games in terms of pace and in terms of understanding the limit of the car. It could be the handling model, kind of playing more towards that understeery feel, but you still have that oversteery sense to where you need to be on that limit and kind of push through the limit in order to find the time, which it's hard for a lot of people to do. And yeah, it's a different handling thing, but I'm
Well, let me
sticking
ask
with
you,
what I'm trying to do here, and to hopefully win and hopefully be very competitive. We'll see.
copy paste to me too.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of trying. I think that's the fun part about it, is figuring like last season for me was a challenge. Didn't play for the first 6 months virtually, and it took my first ever big year off from league racing. Came back, I thought that was like, oh, this is like a new challenge I haven't had before. This is a new challenge, new car, new game. I haven't had that in a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit more of getting that passion back, right? But I always said in the past is, and I pretty much live by this, is I do things because they're fun. If they're not fun to me, I generally don't like to do it. And in the past, I would go into that mode of now this is why I wanted to ask you,
Mhm.
the way you're practicing now, figuring the setups out and doing this so early on in the game, maybe even by yourself or with others, is that fun to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's I'm having more fun doing it than in previous games, and I feel like because I understand what the values of each part of the setup do, like I understand more what the wings do. I understand how to if I move the wings in a certain direction, I know where to go to balance that out in the suspension, and I know where to balance that out in the camber and this and that. It's part of it is like with my own testing, but I think a lot of it is because I've been watching more videos and stuff and just reading what different people have been trying and been in parties, like party chats and stuff, and we're all trying different stuff, and so there's more of a like this more of the same direction in terms of like trying to explore with other people that I've been racing with and been in parties the past week or so, because we all have that same desire, and so that's what is fun for me. And like I do a lot of iRacing, and I've done ACC in the past, and especially when I was on ACC from the time that COVID hit to about a year-ish ago. That's all that game was. It was like a lot of laps by yourself or in a practice with other people, and you're trying different setup stuff. And I think you've tried it a bit too, but it was very intricate, and that stuff has always intrigued me. And what's frustrating, or what has been frustrating, is that in the past for F1 games, there hasn't been that simulation or the realism of the F1 type setups, to where this year in F1 22, it's more realistic and the changes you make reflect better what should happen, and you can actually feel a change. Like I feel more of a change when I change values this game than in previous games. I've always just found that exciting and maybe not exciting, but interesting. And when I'm interested in something, to me, that's exciting.
Okay. No, that's fair. I think the reason I go the other route is because that's fun to me, right? So I would kind of encourage those who do. And I know not everyone has the game yet in the league, and maybe some listening don't even ever have had an F1 game. But if you do get one, or eventually do get the new F1 22 game, I definitely will encourage everyone to make sure your settings are right in life and also in game. And I would encourage for people to do whatever is fun for them in the early stages of the game, because I think when you're having the most fun, you're also learning the most. So if that's interesting to you, and whatever you seem as interesting is fun, that's fun to you, but that's your way of learning because it's fun. If it seems like a job
It's
or
not fun.
work, it's not fun, and you're also really not learning because you don't want to be there. So I love five lappers. That's just, I think they do so much for the driver. And I don't love time trial, but I think getting that sense of perfection of a lap is trying to unlock a little bit more of that speed that I've had, in previous years that maybe I have been lacking. Just because I think my interest has left league racing and has came back. I don't know if it's fully back, but it's there or thereabouts. And I think time trial to me is fun, trying to be on that limit and unlock that speed that's in me, being that I drive great when I'm pissed off. I said that
Yeah,
how many times
a lot
last
last season.
season. I
Yeah.
said you just fucking
And
piss me off,
whenever
and
you were, I was just like, oh god damn it, like
I
yeah,
get
he's
in
pissed
this
off.
mode.
Now I got this guy I gotta beat and stuff, and it's like, jeez, man,
I get in
being
this
so mad. I
mode
want to beat
where
you for once, you know?
I'm just like, man, I'm just so in tune with the car and
Yeah.
just like pissed off, and I'm hitting everything. I'm in like an invulnerable sense of just I am one with the car, and I felt like I've been lacking that with a
Mm.
more relaxed approach. And time trials a way for me to get that back, and that's fun feeling that. I remember one race a few seasons, many seasons ago now. I was teammates with Talon, and he got crashed out. And I'm such a team player, and I want to win the constructors. I want the team to do well. And I heard he crashed out. He's pissed, and it wasn't his fault from what he told on the radio. And I was just so pissed that happened because he was struggling with that. And man, I went into this like alter ego one with the car. I was pissed because
Like
he
Jekyll and
crashed
Hyde,
out.
right? Or that thing. Hyde and Jekyll or
Oh,
Jekyll and Hyde or whatever.
sure, I don't know what that is, but a reference I don't get. But man, I went to this man in this zone, and there's many races that I've felt that, and I think that's why that time trial's fun. But I think I will eventually. I also think once you get to 40 hours on the F1 game, that's when you pretty much know the handling model, know your limits. You should have found somewhat of the limit, maybe not there on every aspect of the game because you only have 40 hours in the game. But I think from 40 hours onward, which I personally am not at 40 hours yet. If I look up at Steam, I am at 39.4 hours, and I was very diligent on that, meaning if I'm on the game and I'm racing, I'm racing. If I'm in the menu, I quit the game. I really want to take an accurate measure of that. But once I get to 40 hours, probably tonight, eventually I will start to, get into more of the setups, learn the setups, get in a 60-minute practice session, hopefully with you. And to me, that's then fun if I'm doing it with a teammate.
Yeah.
And eventually it's fun, but I feel like that can't happen unless I do have fun with the game first. So, yeah, and that's great too. I'm curious to see what others' approaches are. As a career mode, is it, um, l- you know, online play, different racing styles? Is it? I don't know. Definitely leave it in the comments below. I would love to hear from what your first approach is, and how you think we did on ours so far. But I think the we're kind of going more back on the F1 games uh, idea list. Um, we talked about it earlier as far as initial reaction, what I think they did well. We didn't really think of too many negatives, maybe just lack
Like
of
content.
content. Yeah,
Yeah.
lack of new things. But what would be on our wish list for the new F1 games? It could be as crazy or as realistic as possible. Do any
Um,
stand out?
I mean, I'm more of a realist, so I know we could probably wish for a lot of things that would never really happen. So, but I think for let's see, wish list. Man, that's a good one. I think more intuitive setups and just a change of what we see on the interface. Like we've had pretty much the same kind of graphics and the same kind of sliders and stuff for years now. It's been the same for probably since what 2016 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But maybe more in-depth setups, like more of what iRacing and ACC has or R Factor has, but that's getting more on that simulation side. I would really like to see, and I know this is coming, but a brand new engine, because we've had the same engine running this game for since 2014. And I was watching a stream last night. I forgot who it was, but they were saying, this game looks really, really good for the engine that is running on since 2014. I was like, yeah, that's right. It's like, man, this does look pretty good for an 8-year-old engine. Imagine what it's going to look like if we go to Unreal 3 or Unreal 4 or whatever they're on right now. Just in terms of how the cars react to the track and how it looks when you're streaming and all that. So I think that's the next level up. The graphics, or not the, well, I guess the graphics could take a step up, but that's also with the engine too. Like everything just looks a bit, it looks polished, but it's like there's definitely defects in what you see. Like sometimes it's not smooth, or see things not completely connected to one another. That's kind of bothersome if you're kind of picky or OCD. Another thing for wish list would be the cross-platform, and I think just more content, a complete revamp of the career mode for those that enjoy that aspect of the game, which I'm not one of those people, but I know a lot of people do that, and it's been kind of the same rinse and repeat, refresh, or like a wash thing. So doing a completely different thing, but that takes a lot of time, and there's a huge team of EA and Codemasters that are working, and there's 2 different teams that I've learned about that, one team works on the even numbered year games, and another team works on the odd number year games, because it takes about 2 years of development to push
Is
out
that
these
how
games.
they do it? Is that how they start? They do that, huh?
I forgot where I read it or if I saw it, but it was before the game came out, and I was watching a lot of beta videos and stuff, and a few guys said that the reason there's no breaking point on this game is because that was a 2019 and a 2021 thing, so we should expect breaking point on F1 23.
Okay.
Just like what we have on this game was also on 2020. So there's the team that I guess is working on F1 23, the same team that worked on F1 2021. I could be wrong, and I'm probably wrong, but that's what I've heard from a few people.
Now that you mention it, I think I heard it somewhere as well. No, I think you're right. I think because it does take
Makes
so
sense,
long.
right?
I think it's internal Codemasters. Like I think they've
Right.
probably been doing that for a while, because some things take a lot longer to measure out, and the games are an evolution, right? So each game you get something new, something they've been working on, and that's why it's kind of like a copy paste in a lot of other areas, because it's so much content to update and make new in such a short amount of time. Really, I mean,
Really is. I mean,
these
you're talking
things have to
about like
be every
9
year.
months.
Yeah, 9 months, right? I mean, because you want to make sure it's done by X amount so you can trial out and get all the little bugs out. But you can't be working up onto the game before the first but the 2 weeks to launch. That stuff should be done a lot earlier. So that makes sense that they might do it like that. And I think that is I know the Call of Duty games do every. I don't know if they do it anymore. I've been out of the loop a little bit, but I think they have 3 different, like Treyarch. They have different. Oh, D'Angelo, you're a Call of Duty guy, aren't you? Who's the other
Got
makers?
Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and Sledgehammer
Ward.
is returned
Yep.
back into the mix.
So they do every year is a different person and rotation it out, because it takes so much time to work on those games, and I think that's fine, because I don't mind waiting for something if it's great quality, and I think that that's a good step forward. Yeah, I'm always a positive, open-minded person and optimist, but and I continue to be on these F1 games, because I'm telling you, if anyone played the 2015 game, man, There was no content whatsoever, and
Nothing.
I didn't mind because I was just learning the cars and everything. I was just blown away by the cars and back then I didn't really care. I won or anything else, but now I feel like I'm spoiled. Like everything now is like a lot more than what I had on my first game because I was just did Grand Prix mode and just did that over and over again and did some multiplayer races here and that was it. There was no career mode, RPG style development and all that stuff. But I think it's cool from personally. I would love to see I have quite a few. Obviously, people were saying red flags. I think that'll eventually get into some point. I think it makes more sense in career mode, which not really on multiplayer necessarily. Although that'd be cool if it could happen. I think starting from pit lane is a realistic option. I think
Oh
you should
yeah.
have that option. I think it'd be good for league racing as well, online and also career mode. If you want to opt to not start on the grid and kind of save your car, I think that is a good option. And it would be, I guess, another penalty that a league could give. I think when you're looking at the menus, I think that needs a big revamp as well. I think it needs to be easy for the user to know where they want to go. I think that overall looks good. The graphics to me are decent. I think when you're racing, you don't really need to a certain extent, you want what you want important to look good. But there's a lot of stuff that when you're on PC, you could, or even I guess on console, you could turn a lot of that down because you want to improve performance. Um, I think for multiplayer standards, I think they could do so much for that, and I'm really disappointed in F1 games because, the esports came in and 2017, I believe, and we're like, man, how are they going to do that on the multiplayer? They gave them a different game model, and the multiplayer, I feel like they could have done so much more because more people were joining the game. Because it's now an official esports competition. You would think they would want to put a lot towards multiplayer. So I was very optimistic about that, but I think I've been pretty let down. I think we've actually went backwards. 2018, there was a great ranked play. You would get the stats of the other driver. You'd get safety rating, and I know they still have it now, but you have to use those stupid multiplayer cars that I don't want to be in. I
I
want
don't.
to
I
be
hate
in.
those. Ooh.
I want to be in an F1 car in a ranked play, and they took that away, and now there's no stats. I mean, there is, but it doesn't. No one's really looking at that on a consistent basis. We want a ranking system, especially with crossplay coming in. If you have an option to go into crossplay or not, if you have an option to be in ranked play, you could do ranked play for F1 cars, ranked play for multiplayer cars, casual for F1 cars, casual for multiplayer cars, and just give us the option to do that. Now it's just five lappers. It doesn't really, make it a ranking system. Make it that edge, the statistics. I was listening to uh, the last event of TCR, the Hungary race, and Sensation. After I was mentioning him on the first episode, he actually was on the comms as co-com, and he wanted to see like in the game, like, oh, if you get to X amount of wins, would be like, oh, you just passed Nico Rosberg. I don't know why I chose him on the
Terrible example.
all-time wins list or something, or
Yeah.
you got X amount of polls, or like give the statistics, the history a little bit. And I think there's also that feature that since it got introduced has went nowhere, which is that league option, which has done nothing for leagues or no one uses that. It's so inefficient. You know that option, right? That you can go in, you can find a league, but it's just terribly run. They probably had somebody who had no idea about leagues make that league feature. I mean, they have access to F1 drivers, all the YouTube creators and people who've done league racing. Go to them, see how can we make this league feature easier, a better experience for leagues and league racers and the multiplayer section, to where we could go into this feature and it has everything. It has everything you would need to put out a league competition. I think that is something that needs to be, really worked on. Um, is the multiplayer, that longevity, and there could even be different like multiplayer game modes that would be just a little different. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Something new and fresh, because it's been kind of
Yeah,
the
like
same thing
different
for a
game
few
modes. Like
years, you know?
yeah, like if you were to go on like Call of Duty, you have, and I'm using that because that's another multiplayer. They have all those. You look at the cosmetic stuff. Now we're EA, right? You look at maybe Rocket League or Fortnite. You have the pit pass. We have the battle pass. It was originally, that was like the first person game that really did that. We have it on F1. Call of Duty has it. A lot of games have that. Rocket League has it. It's a way to get cosmetic stuff if you pay an X amount for a season, and you get different cosmetic stuff on your rankings, but you can also see your statistics on Call of Duty and Rocket League and Fortnite, how many wins you have, and that's all determined on your rank. You could prestige and try to up your level compared to what other people would have if they don't have as many wins, and I think that would be great. But you have different game modes in Call of Duty, like team deathmatch, kill confirmed, domination, all these. Not saying you can make so many, but there's a few that I think that they could make to where it's like, all right, it's not just the distance and weather. We have a few other game modes that we can do in multiplayer that would give a little bit of access to drivers and such. And the one other big thing that I had, and this was kind of created, and I didn't make this list. This is all off the rip. I have I bet there's so many more ideas that I could come up with that I
Yeah.
think would be more league oriented. But I did a co-op career with Gijo Breezy, platinum two-time champ of TCR, and I thought it was fun that you can do an online championship co-op, and we did, and it was fun. We got to develop the car, and we raced AI cars, because you could only have two people in co-op. And I think co-op needs to stay. They shouldn't take it out or anything. That's a great feature. I would actually love to do that again with maybe you, professional. I don't know. We can do it. Um,
Can take our team to the top again.
yeah, we can't do it in TCR. We got to do it somehow. Um, but we came up. I think it was more Breezy's idea, but he was saying that, man, it would be great if leagues can have this same type of thing to where you can get not two people, but you can get 20 different drivers into a development race, development season where you can develop your cars, get, resources dependent on some degree, and develop your cars and make pretty much what we do a reality with not equal performance, but realistic performance, but have each person have an opportunity to develop their car. Now, how you would do that and complicate things, that's another question, another story for another day. But I think if you look at league racing, it's equal cars. And I think, that makes sense. But for a different style of play, can you imagine 20 different people and, a season, and you have some sort of a development race where it's not just AI, but you're a
And you
league.
have the cost cap too. Put that into play. You can, do you want to develop your car more towards the beginning of the season, gain that early season advantage, or do you wait and kind of like make a late season push or whatever? I like that idea. That's really really cool.
I think you could do a
Yeah,
lot
that's
with that.
awesome.
I think
I think so.
I think it would be a great feature. And the last few other ones, I really just the oh, I had it and now I don't. But it would be, I don't know. I guess that would be, I don't know. I lost whatever I was thinking. But
I mean, those are some pretty cool things.
but I think the future of the games is definitely bright. I think there's a lot to look forward to, a lot of different ideas. But for the multiplayer side of things, definitely need something, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing over and over again. Like you're just racing, right? But how do we make that more entertaining and longevity? And that's why I think leagues are very successful, and that's why a lot of people still play the F1 games long into launch, and almost the complete cycle is because of leagues. But I think there could be a lot more in that for sure. And
Yeah, like options for leagues to use, because leagues already kind of, make the online multiplayer different, and they already add variety. You see so many leagues out there doing different formats and creating their own kind of style and adding things in, like for more realism. Like you have team managers and you have driver swaps and actual like more real life situations and stuff that they create. So it'd be cool if the games in EA Sports could create that. I think they could, because now EA Sports has taken over Codemasters. They have a much bigger team and much bigger budget, and so now Lee Mather and David Greco and all them, they can probably explore more and they expand their ideas and hopefully put them into practice in the future. So the future of F1 games, I think it was the right time for Codemasters to merge with somebody else, because it had been 11 games that they've made, and something needed to happen for it to still be accessible and fresh and exciting and stuff. And so as much as people doubt or don't like EA Sports or whatever, I think it's a fine company. They're obviously successful and pretty big for a reason, and hopefully they don't just do a rinse and repeat on F1 games like they've done on certain other titles, like FIFA and Madden and stuff. I think this is a completely different type of game than FIFA and Madden, and there's much more to explore with this game that they haven't yet because of Codemasters' smaller budgets, and smaller teams. So I think the only way is up and forward and stuff, and I'm excited to see how much more they can implement, how much more realism they can implement in the games in terms of setups, in terms of handling, degradation for tires, maybe mechanical failures in actual league racing, which I know we want to just do equal cars, and you want the driver to make the difference, but you could add in that type of realism and all that. So
one last wish list idea, which I had and now I lost, but now I have it again, is that we only get an option to have 22 people in the lobby, right? So 20 drivers and 2 commentators. But I think it would be a cool option to have 10 more spectators, to have one spectator as the team, what do you call them? Principal, what do
Like
you
a
call them?
strategist.
Yeah, like a crew chief, or not a crew chief, but that, engineer. Got it. I got
there
it.
you go.
Engineer. So have one per team. Have them able to get access to certain information to where they can relay it to you, whether that be gap to pit stops. I think is quite difficult, and we've had engineer in the past before Breezy, and I've actually engineered for Kersey and some other people as well, and I've had different engineers from time to time, and not saying that it's a must, but you definitely get a lot more information, and it could help, rather than Jeff or the Mark or whatever they're calling the guy now. Man, I've been so used to Jeff all these times. I got in, and I got this guy was like, oh, he started talking to me. I'm like, where's Jeff? He's
Who
like,
is this
man, he
guy, and
didn't
what have you
even
done with him?
he didn't even say goodbye.
Wait.
Who's this new guy that you sent in? Who you fired, Jeff? What happened?
Is it Mark now, or is it what's his name?
I think it's Mark. I don't know. I just
Mark?
made that up.
I miss Jeff.
But I think it'd be cool to have that, and also for commentary, I think it'd be cool for, getting more information, but having that engineer per team, having a commentator, get a little bit more information to help with broadcasting, which we'll have an episode on, and maybe taking those results and then sending it to that league feature or exporting it so leagues can have the results on an actual table or something to where it's a lot easier. I think is a little far-fetched, but if I have to, if you're giving me a dream, I'm gonna dream. So I think that'd be really cool, and I think for league racing would definitely better is through those different categories. But I'm happy with the release so far. I hope everyone else is. If you haven't gotten the game yet, I know a few haven't, but most have. Enjoy it, have some fun, try to get all your stuff situated, and get in there and learn. Feel the game out a little bit. I think they did a good job. I'm excited for season 14 and this whole game cycle. And that's really that's I'm gonna leave it there. Any final thoughts on the F1 game in general?
I'm excited. I'm actually probably gonna get on F1 after recording this podcast and just do more
Same
because
here.
I want to play it, and it's the first time in a long time that I've just wanted to constantly play this
Ooh,
game because
yeah,
I
I
want
have
to
to
get
say
good.
one more. Sorry, I'm
Go
interrupting.
for it. Go for it now.
One final request for an F1 game. I have one more. I know. Sorry, with this I know we had a limit, but we're going a little past. That's all right. The racing line assist, and we're gonna get to something more. I mean, we're just
God,
beginning.
racing line is an assist. When people say it's not an assist, it's the biggest assist you can have. I mean, it's Rainbow Road. Pretty much looking at a color, saying, I'm going to brake there. I'm going to turn there. That's not an assist. BS. Come on, get out of here.
We got to save
Seriously.
that for another episode. Come on,
Absolutely.
we're so early on. We've got a lot to unpack. Well, we will get on that topic, but I think it would be a great idea to have an extra assist to where it literally just tells you either a line on the track or highlights the braking board, a line on the track that says, this is where you should brake. Not the actual line, because most of us don't need the line, but it's the biggest assist, period, on the F1 game, and we will get into that on another episode. But to explain why it is, I think they need to give some alternative to kind of maybe bridge the gap to those who use no line and those who use the racing line, or at least corners only, because it's such a huge assist that it's such an advantage. A lot of people like to use it, and I think just highlighting on the track itself, like a little blue line. In time trial you have those different little lines that show you the telemetry. I think if you just put a little line on the track, say, hey, right at the 100 is recommended. Now you find the rest. This way, now when you're racing, you could just see the line on the track, a little highlight or something, or maybe they highlight the braking board because sometimes those get taken out, and I think something like that would be cool to help limit that assist. Would be good. Sorry, but final thoughts.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
No more from me. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all I got too. I think I covered a lot of things, and if you're listening, hopefully got some insight and kind of how we approach the games, and maybe can implement a little bit into your stuff. Also, let us know how you approach the game too, and if you league race and how you approach racing, that. But I'm excited for next week's podcast, which next week is the French Grand Prix in real life. And I believe we'll be doing a French Grand Prix debrief, actually on the real F1 and talking about real F1 drivers and teams and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. So tune in next week. But that's all I got. You want to close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for listening to episode 2 of the Racing Debrief here in TCR. Make sure to follow TCR on all socials and join the TCR Discord server where we are the most active. I believe we have another event coming up this week, and the French Grand Prix debrief would be next week. And until then, we'll see you next week, and thank you for listening.